This is the first video in the chapter on composition of solutions. We are going to talk about solutions, how to find their molarity, and what a dilution of a solution is. So in our last chapter, we learned all about the way atoms are bonded together. And when we have atoms bonded together, that makes molecules. So we learned all about molecules, what their geometry was, how many valence electrons they had, what their polarity was like. And now we're ready to look at many molecules of multiple different types. Now we are going to mix together different kinds of molecules, at least two different kinds. So we're going to mix molecules together and describe their interactions. So as you may have guessed, many things can happen when you mix different molecules together, some of them more dramatic than others. In this chapter, we're just going to focus on the least dramatic version, which is when those molecules simply mix and don't react with each other. So we're going to talk about solutions. So a solution is a homogeneous mixture, which is a term we introduced in one of the first lecture videos for this course. Homogeneous mixture of two or more substances. Let's break that definition down because it has a lot of words in it. Oops. So first of all, a homogeneous mixture. If something is a homogeneous mixture, it means it has a consistent composition throughout. So it's not just like chunks of different things thrown together in a basket. It is of consistent composition throughout the entire mixture. And then this part, two or more substances, there are going to be multiple things mixed together, and they are going to be called the solute or solutes and the solvent. So it may be the first time you've heard those words. So let's draw a picture of what that looks like. So when you have a solution, you're going to have multiple parts, and one of those parts is usually going to be less abundant than the other part, usually quite significantly less abundant, and we call that part the solute. So the solute is the minor component of a solution. You can think of this as the sugar that you add to your tea or the honey that you add to your tea. There is a lot less of the sugar than there is of the tea. The larger component that makes up most of the solution, which we usually don't even bother to draw because there's so much of it, is called the solvent. Solvent is the major component of the solution. And when you have those two pieces together, a mixture of one or more solutes and a solvent makes a solution. We will introduce more detail about solutions a little bit later, but one of the most relevant features of a solution is its phase, whether it is a solid, a liquid, or a gas. And the phase of a solution usually matches the phase of the bigger piece, or the solvent. So for example, when you make your sugar in tea mixture, the sugar is the smaller piece, the solute, the water is the solvent, the major piece, and the solution as a whole is a liquid. The solvent is a liquid. So when we talk about the solute, we said it was minor, that there was less of that, but we're going to need to specify exactly how much we have. We have some words that we use to help us describe whether the amount of solute is low or whether it's high relatively. So if the amount of solute is low, we say that the solution is dilute, and we'll make sort of a sliding scale. If there is a large amount of solute, we say that the solution is concentrated. It still needs to be less than the solvent, but concentrated means there's a relatively large amount of that. And the question that we need to answer is, how much is there? And that will be the next thing we go into, but there's one more thing I forgot to say, so let's quickly do that first. So we're talking about solutions, and in this class, we're mainly going to focus on one specific type of solution. And that's called an aqueous solution. So you might be able to guess from the name, an aqueous solution has the word aqua in it. So that means that the solvent is going to be water or this kind of solution, because that is the most commonly found solution on Earth and the most common solution found in a general chemistry laboratory. Aqueous solution featuring water. And so when something is dissolved, for example, if I was taking sugar, which we could roughly write as glucose. Glucose is a solid. If I was going to dissolve that in the tea, after it was dissolved, I would change the symbol from S for solid to AQ for aqueous. So if you see a little AQ next to something, it means that that thing is in a solution of water, that this is the smaller part and that water is the larger part. Okay, now back to this. So we need to know how much solute we have in a particular solution, and there are several ways we can use to measure it, and that is what we are going to talk about in the next video. We will talk about chemist's favorite way to measure how much of something is in solution, which is called molarity.